Hi everyone, I am Ajmal Elai. I am the founder of AAYAN Management Solutions. Welcome to AAYAN World. Together, let's explore research, evidence, and innovation that inform better decisions and create lasting impact. Let's begin our journey.
Social reality is chaotic. It is an entanglement of billions of intersecting decisions, resources, and behaviors. The core function of quantitative research is to take that sprawling, unstructured noise and force it into an exact, testable grid. Observing a problem is enough to write an article, but proving the exact impact of a high-value policy requires moving past observation entirely. It requires an engineered architecture of proof. Quantitative research is deductive. Instead of exploring abstract meaning, it begins with an established theory, isolates specific variables, and measures them numerically to test whether that theory holds true across a population. For monitoring, evaluation, and learning professionals, the method dictates the validity of the entire project. Selecting a mathematically inappropriate design generates misleading data, which misdirects policy and wastes funding on interventions that fail to deliver results. To understand how this toolkit operates, we have to examine its structural layers, starting from the mathematical bedrock of sampling, moving up through descriptive models, and peaking at causal experimental design. Remember, data collection is merely a task. True quantitative research is the deliberate construction of deductive proof. Before a single survey is deployed or a regression model run, a researcher must build the sample. No quantitative design, regardless of its analytical sophistication, survives a flaw in this foundation. A target population, say all working adults in a country, is too large to measure completely. The mathematical challenge is extracting a miniature version of that population that behaves identically to the whole. This diagram maps the two divergent methodologies for extraction. The blue branch represents probability sampling, and the gray branch represents non-probability methods. Probability sampling operates under one strict rule. Every single unit in the target population has a known non-zero chance of being selected. This randomness provides mathematical stability. It is the structural requirement for generalizing findings to the broader population. Conversely, non-probability sampling involves selection that is not mathematically random. A researcher might select whoever is easiest to reach, or seek out a specific profile of expert. This creates a direct structural trade-off. Non-probability methods are significantly faster and cheaper to execute in the field, but they eliminate the ability to generalize findings beyond the immediate group surveyed. A dataset of 10 million responses drawn randomly is more reliable than a dataset of 100 million drawn poorly. The mathematical structure of the sample dictates the validity of every subsequent claim made by the researcher. Once a valid sample is secured, the next layer of the architecture utilizes descriptive designs. These are methods deployed to measure a population's characteristics and attitudes at scale without attempting to alter them. This matrix compares the three primary descriptive tools used in social research and governance, highlighting their distinct trade-offs. Surveys and questionnaires are built to collect standardized data from vast numbers of respondents using structured, closed-ended questions. An NGO, for example, might deploy a massive household survey to measure varying levels of access to clean water across rural districts. The constraint lies in the data source. Surveys offer immense reach, but they rely heavily on honest self-reporting. They efficiently capture what is happening, but structurally miss the why. To bypass self-reporting bias, researchers use structured observation. This involves recording behavior directly using predefined, objective, countable checklists. Rather than asking a clinician if they follow protocols, an evaluator physically stands in a health facility and counts precise hand-washing events to measure actual compliance. The vulnerability here is psychological. The Hawthorne effect demonstrates that the mere presence of an observing researcher often alters the very behavior being measured. The final major descriptive tool is secondary, or administrative, data analysis. This method extracts insights strictly from existing numerical datasets. A demographer might leverage historical national census data to analyze shifting regional literacy rates over a decade, requiring zero primary data collection. While unmatched in scale and cost, the researcher is strictly bound by the original collector's definitions. If the census poorly defined literacy 10 years ago, that flaw dictates your analysis today. Descriptive methods construct a rigorous, scaled portrait of a population. They tell a policymaker exactly what reality looks like, but they are structurally incapable of proving what caused it to look that way. Correlated data is frequently mistaken for proof, making the intellectual leap from observing two trends that happen at the same time to definitively proving that an intervention caused a specific outcome requires a different methodological tier entirely. The core threat to proving causation is the presence of confounding variables, hidden external factors that might secretly be driving the observed changes instead of the program you are trying to test. To isolate cause and effect, researchers rely on the structural logic model. A population is split. One side receives the treatment, while a comparable control group is isolated from it. Randomized controlled trials, or RCTs, are the most rigorous design for this inference. By using pure mathematical randomization to assign individuals to groups, RCTs neutralize all known and unknown confounding variables. You could test the impact of a cash transfer program on school enrollment by randomly providing the cash to half a district, withholding it from the other half, and measuring the difference. But RCTs are burdened by significant limitations. They demand high financial costs and extended timelines. Crucially, deliberately withholding a beneficial treatment from a control group frequently hits ethical barriers in real-world policy environments. When an RCT is impossible, researchers must find alternative ways to estimate the counterfactual. What would have happened if the intervention had never existed? Quasi-experimental designs approach this by estimating causal effects without full randomization. They utilize statistical controls to build a comparison group after the fact. A researcher might mathematically match districts that received a program with similar districts that did not, utilizing statistical formulas. The trade-off is unavoidable. Quasi-experiments offer high feasibility in active policy environments, but they deliver lower causal certainty because they rely heavily on assumptions about group comparability. Achieving causal certainty is never a perfect science. It is a calculated negotiation against real-world ethical and financial realities. Whether descriptive or causal, the designs we have covered share one major limitation. They are snapshots in time. They are incapable of proving how an intervention develops or decays over years. To measure temporal change, the structural design itself must stretch across time, as illustrated by this longitudinal axis. Cohort, longitudinal, and panel studies all track the exact same individuals or groups repeatedly over time. A development agency might track a specific cohort of children for a decade to measure the delayed, long-term cognitive impacts of an early childhood nutrition program. The primary threat to this design is attrition. Over a decade, participants inevitably drop out, relocate, or lose contact. As the cohort thins, the mathematical validity of the original sample degrades. Adding the dimension of time reveals critical behavioral sequences, but leaves the structural integrity of the study vulnerable to decay. The true power of quantitative research does not lie in the volume of data collected, but in the rigorous matching of the structural method to the specific policy question. This blueprint maps a completely interconnected system, from the mathematical grounding of the sample up through the descriptive mapping of a population, scaling to the causal isolation of an experiment. The quantitative architecture is optimized for answering questions of scale: how many, how much, and what exact statistical relationship exists. But regardless of its complexity, a purely deductive numerical model cannot answer why humans behave the way they do, or how local context alters an intervention. Bridging this gap requires the modern evaluation standard. Mixed methods designs intentionally pair statistical scale with contextual inductive depth. Whether run concurrently or sequentially, they unite numerical proof with human meaning. I break down the qualitative side of this equation in the next video. The most robust social researchers do not rely on numbers alone. They build quantitative frameworks to measure reality at scale, setting the necessary stage for qualitative methods to extract its meaning.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may find it useful. I will see you in the next video.